She has an undergraduate degree from the University of Alaska Anchorage in aviation and has worked for many aviation companies in the state. And before getting involved in politics, Lynn served on many local boards within her community, the Goose Creek Citizens Advisory Board, the Point McKenzie Comprehensive Plan, and Alaska Transportation Council. She's also been involved in many aspects of the Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. And I just want to invite Lynn to come up and, hi Lynn, and introduce our panelists. Thank you, Lynn.
And thank you, everybody. I'd like to introduce Dr. Sue Pearls. Dr. Suzanne Sue Pearls is the CEO of Girl Scouts of Alaska. She brings a wealth of relevant experience to her role, having served in high-level management roles and on board of directors for both private and nonprofit sector organizations. Sue has also been very involved in youth programs, having founded, raised funds, and managed volunteers for the Southern California Children's Speed Skating School, an after-school program giving local children from diverse backgrounds the opportunity to learn an Olympic sport. She was a national ranked speed skater and has been a volunteer coach and referee. Please help me in bringing forth Dr. Sue Pearls. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's from a scout to a scout.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And one thing Representative Gaddis did not tell you is she is a dues-paying member of Troop 49, which is the state of Alaska's Girl Scout troop for every woman in the state legislature and all of our statewide commissioners. Pleasure to be here. I think we're rolling some film. Maybe? Thank you. Okay, if we're not quite ready with the film, you good? Okay, go for it.
Hi, Erin.
Hi.
Okay, so I'm going to just give you some actions to do. And just do the first thing that comes to mind. Show me what it looks like to run like a girl.
My hair.
Show me what it looks like to fight like a girl. Now throw like a girl.
Aw. My name is Dakota, and I'm 10 years old.
Show me what it looks like to run like a girl. Throw like a girl. Fight like a girl. What does it mean to you when I say run like a girl?
It means run fast as you can.
So do you think you just insulted your sister?
No. I mean, yeah, insulted girls, but not my sister.
Is like a girl a good thing?
Actually, I don't know if it's a bad thing or a good thing. It sounds like a bad thing. It sounds like you're trying to humiliate someone.
So when they're in that vulnerable time between 10 and 12, how do you think it affects them when somebody uses like a girl as an insult?
I think it definitely drops their self-confidence and really puts them down, because during that time they're already trying to figure themselves out, and when somebody says you hit like a girl, it's like, well, what does that mean? Because they think they're a strong person. It's kind of like telling them that they're weak and they're not as good as them.
And what advice do you have to young girls who are told they run like a girl, kick like a girl, hit like a girl, swim like a girl?
Keep doing it, because it's working.
If somebody else says that running like a girl or kicking like a girl or shooting like a girl is something that you shouldn't be doing, that's their problem. Because if you're still scoring and you're still getting to the ball on time and you're still being first, you're doing it right. It doesn't matter what they say. I mean, yes, I kick like a girl and I swim like a girl and I walk like a girl and I wake up in the morning like a girl because I am a girl. And that is not something that I should be ashamed of. So I'm going to do it anyway. That's what they should do.
If I asked you to run like a girl now, would you do it differently?
I would run like myself.
Would you like a chance to redo it?
Yeah.
Why can't run like a girl also mean win the race?
So my name is Sue, and I have the most fun job in Alaska. I know a lot of folks out here have cool jobs, and it's been great fun meeting everybody, but to get up every single day and go to work for 6,000 Alaskan girls is just an incredible experience. There is nothing more important in a community than investing in our children and to ensuring that all of our youngsters have an opportunity to grow and to flourish and to become everything that they can be. And I think you'll see with some of our panelists today that is indeed happening. We have some incredible panelists who are going to join me up here. But we know here in Alaska and across the country, around the world, that is not happening for every girl. And it's our responsibility, collectively, it's all of our responsibilities, to make sure that every girl has an upbringing, a mentor or a woman-tor, to lead her through the process of growing up and to give her the skills and the strengths that she needs to become a contributing member of society and to become a strong and a fearless woman like the women on our panel. So panelists, if you could join us. And we truly have some incredible panelists here today, and I am going to let them each introduce themselves. So, Holly, do you want to get started?
Oh, I didn't know I was going to introduce myself, but I'm honored. I'll echo what everyone else has said. Wonderful to see so many people here, and I'm really glad that you all got a chance to watch that video. I think it has 48 million views on it, so I know that every time I watch it, I've watched it countless times, I get the goosebumps from head to toe, and I saw some tears here in the front row right there with that. But anyway, my name is Holly Brooks. I am an Olympic cross-country skier, represented the U.S. and Alaska in Vancouver and most recently in Sochi. I ski locally for the APU Nordic Ski Center, and I've been on the U.S. ski team as well. I am a graduate student in counseling psychology, going for an emphasis in sports psychology at APU, and I guess that's me. So I'll turn it over to Dee Dee.
Well, I don't want to go through all my background because I'm 60 years old, and But I'm Dee Dee Johnrow, and I've raced 32 Iditarods. I got a degree from the University of Alaska in Fairbanks in biological sciences and renewable resources, and went to work in Western Alaska as a biologist. And that's where I really met my passion, which was anything out of doors connected with dogs and traveling and the culture of the state of Alaska. So, there's a lot of accomplishments, but it's all been just trying for something that's really I've been told I can't do, and then I've tried to go about accomplishing it, even though I was told I couldn't do it. And so, I appreciate the fact that the dreams and the pushers and the encouragers that are in the room here today. And, just recently, I ran my fastest marathon. I hadn't run a marathon at all since I had breast cancer. I am also a breast cancer survivor. So, so for 14 years, I hadn't tried anything that long, and so I tried it, and I just had a pretty good result, you know, at the Big Wildlife. So I thought, well, this is amazing. I'm not a runner, and you know, but I was only 3 minutes off qualifying for Boston, and won my age class. But you know, at 60, that gets easier, and you know. So I said, well, I'm going to run Kenai. You know, I'm going to see if I can do this. And so I did, and I ran the Kenai marathon, and of course won my age class. But you know, like I said, not so hard. But it was actually for both genders, so that did make it a little nicer, you know. And qualified for Boston. So I don't know. Boston's a month after Iditarod, but we'll see where that goes.
Well, I'm Cora Campbell, and it's just an amazing honor to be on a panel with these very accomplished Alaskan athletes. I was born and raised in Petersburg. I was a commercial fisherman there for much of my life, and moved to Juneau and got into the fisheries policy and politics side of things, and I am now the commissioner for the Alaska Department of Fish and Game, which I think is, you know, certainly a challenging job, but one of the best jobs in the state of Alaska, because you have the opportunity to really make a difference in the lives of Alaskans, providing good, sound management of the resources that people care about, the resources that are the reason that many of us choose to make our lives here. And so that is my current passion, occupation, and what I spend my time on.
Aisha. Do you want me to help you turn it? Sure. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Aisha Abdul-Jalil. I'm a Special Olympics Alaska athlete. I compete in bowling, snowshoeing, and track and field.
Excellent. Well, we have some questions we're going to try to tackle here today. And the first one takes us back to the movie. Ladies, you've all done amazing things. Have you ever faced stereotypes like the ones you saw starting out in the movie? And what did you do to get to the place where they were at the end of the movie, overcoming those stereotypes?
You know, I was kind of staring at this question last night thinking, what stereotypes have I faced? And, you know, I think I have, of course, I've had acts of discrimination in my life, you know, quite often, as I'm sure everyone here can attest to. But I was looking at the question, and I think I have selective memory, but I was like, you know, I feel like I've really lived a pretty privileged life. And, you know, I was the young girl who, when I was a toddler and a baby, my mom dressed me in brown because she didn't want, you know, she didn't want other people to know whether I was a girl or a boy and treat me differently. And then in high school, I was on the soccer team, and I just remember being so mad that the girls would come to practice and they'd talk about what happened on Dawson's Creek and this horrible drama TV show, and all I wanted to do was, you know, practice and work harder, and I wanted to win. And then another memory that I had was in high school, I challenged all of my guy friends who were on the basketball team, over 6 feet tall, to an eating contest. And when I ate 4 entire plates of, like, you know, all you can eat Asian P.F. Chang food or something, 4 heaping plates, I beat them all. And, you know, that's not necessarily a very feminine thing to do, but I did it anyway. And so, you know, I feel like I have been really privileged in my life, but yet I watch the video Like a Girl, and it really, really resonates with me. And I know why, you know, I can, when I hear Like a Girl, there's something in my mind that says, you know, that is kind of a derogatory term, and why should it be? But that's one of the reasons why I'm really involved in a program up here, and it's actually worldwide, started in Canada, but it's called Fast and Female, and I know some of you are familiar with it. But I wanted to go back to kind of taking the stereotypes and actually going back to something Gail said yesterday. She said a recent study came out that acknowledged the fact that 70% of women in management positions actually played team sports when they were growing up, so in middle school, high school, and maybe even college, 70%. And those are girls that, you know, they were that Dakota, that 10-year-old that was able to kind of keep going and not you know, run like this. And so the whole premise behind Fast and Female is it's youth empowerment through sport. And, you know, I don't want to make this whole panel about sports, but, you know, that's my passion and my specialty. But, you know, girls drop out of sports around in between the age of Dakota and I think Aaron on the film, you know, 2 to 3 times the rate that men do. And a lot of research has shown that girls who stay in sports have better body image, you know, higher self-esteem and more confidence. And basically our goal with Fast and Female is to break down those boundaries or not have the boundaries at all. And so I actually brought a little example. When I was organizing Fast and Female, it was a couple weekends ago. We had over 250 girls at East High School. And what it is it's an afternoon of empowerment. The girls get to come and meet their role models. We all go through some healthy activity. They hear inspirational stories from their role models and get to interact with us, and it was really cool. But before when I was organizing this event, Nancy Pease sent me an email, and if you're not familiar with Nancy Pease, she is a wreck-in here in Alaska. She holds the Mount Marathon record and the Bird Ridge record, if any of you are familiar with that mountain race. One year, she actually, it's a foot race where you run 3,000 feet up a mountain, and there was one year she actually won. Kind of like Dee Dee was saying, she beat all the men, not just in her age class, but overall. And I just wanted to give a real-life example of something that's happening here in Anchorage. And in cross-country running, there's something called the Class Flight Race. And what it is all the schools from Anchorage get together. The freshmen race each other, the sophomores race each other, the juniors and seniors, and so on. And she sent me this email, and she said, Holly, we need to do something. And here are the numbers. So girls, there were 54 freshman girls, then there were 48 sophomore girls, 37 junior girls, and 22 senior girls. So what's happening? These girls are dropping out. And, I feel really fortunate in my life that, I was the girl who was starting the eating contest and, winning the eating contest somehow. But there are so many girls that aren't able to do that. And that's, from freshman year to senior year, that's a 59% dropout rate. And compared to the boys in that same class flight race. And again, this isn't statistical analysis. This is just one little snapshot. But it's a snapshot from here at home. And the boys went 56, then they went up to 70 sophomore year, 69 junior year, and then 39 senior year. So I know I kind of dodged the question a little bit, and that I wasn't speaking specifically about stereotypes that I've faced. But these are stereotypes and real problems that are here in Alaska. And I'm really committed to working with programs like Fast and Female and, helping out with Girl Scouts and other positive programs here that really combat those stereotypes.
Well, I come from a whole different era, and it was pre-Title IX. And to be a woman athlete, you were a cheerleader. That was it. There was nothing else available. And that was the cheerleader, she was athletic. And the rest, there was nothing available. Even basketball, we could only run to the half court and then totter there at the middle, while somebody else got it and could run on, because we were not going to be able to run full court, And I mean, you know, we just weren't encouraged.
For those of you who are young, the old basketball rules for women were you had to stay on your own side of the half court and you could take 3 dribbles and then a hop. 4 dribbles was just too much.
Yeah. I mean, that's the absolute truth. I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, the most, you know, out-of-door thing I got to do, which is where I stayed all the time, was running around playing, you know, in the creeks and wherever I lived with my dog, you know. That was it. And friends, if I could drag them along. And so, you know, when I got to the University of Alaska Fairbanks, I got to, for the first time, I went out for the basketball team. Well, women's basketball was pretty non-supported, and I made it. And I was a guard, of course. And I could actually be allowed to run the full court. And in that program, we didn't have, you know, much for uniforms. We had no travel budget. We drove from Anchorage from Fairbanks to Anchorage to play Anchorage teams. And there wasn't really anything at UAA's, would be their City League teams down here. I mean, that was the full women's sports program, you know, and I made some good friends because you spend that much time in a car with people, you know, they become good friends. And so when I graduated and went to Bethel, I played City League basketball. Well, at least now I had more of a chance. I was more the height of the majority of the players. But I was frustrated because nobody wanted to do something all out. They didn't want to do it all out. And I just wasn't satisfied with doing something part way. And so that really, when I was at the Iditarod basketball tournament in Nome, I saw my first time the end of the Iditarod. And I looked at that and said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. You know, and nobody thought that was a good idea. I mean, absolutely nobody thought that was a good idea. But, you know, I saw I can, as hard as I work, it's going to be my work or my failure. I'm going to do that. And part of the reason I was so driven by that was I had dreamed, once I had given up my first dream was to be a veterinarian, and my second dream was to be a PE teacher. Now, I think I would have been good at both of those. But I was told that women can't get into vet school, and I was talked out of vet school, even putting an application in. And I was told you'll outgrow being a PE teacher, that, you know, you'll get too old to be a good PE teacher, which is ridiculous, you know, just ridiculous. So I didn't do that. And when I got to college, I finally started standing up for myself some and got a degree in biology. And every spring, a lot of times there'd only be 4 women in our classes, you know. And every spring, Fish and Game would come, and they would recruit for their summer workers, you know, project workers. And I would put an application in, and they would say, but, you know, we don't have any jobs for women in the field. And I said, that's okay, here's my application, and, you know, and then the next time, here's my application, and that's okay, here's my application. And it just so happened that the year that I graduated, the pipeline took everybody. And so everybody that wanted big money went to the pipeline. Fish and Game couldn't find enough people to fill those positions, and nobody wanted to go to Bethel. So I loved Bethel. By then, I'd already spent one summer out there. I was madly in love with the place, and I got on with Fish and Game, which I had been told I couldn't do. And I was the first biologist, woman biologist in the southwestern area for both commercial fisheries division, for game division, and for the subsistence division. And I worked out there for 17 years with Fish and Game experience, and, you know, eventually left to pursue something I was even more passionate about, which was dog mushing. But I felt the ceiling in Fish and Game because when I was in it, and I loved it, I wanted to be Cora. I wanted to be her. But I felt that ceiling, and I didn't try to break that ceiling. I just diverted myself into the fishing industry another direction.
Beautiful. And Dee Dee, I think that leads us very nicely into the next question. Cora, maybe you can think a little bit about the next question, which is, in what ways does it benefit to be a woman in your field?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sure my left.
Well,
you know, I will get to that, but I want to speak to something that Dee Dee said. So when I was first appointed to this job, I wasn't told like Dee Dee was that we don't have jobs at Fish and Game for women. I was very fortunate. We have a governor who believes that women can do jobs, can do all kinds of jobs, jobs in natural resources, any job you want. And we have more female commissioners than we've ever had at this point in this state. But not everybody believes that. And there were definitely people when I was appointed to this job who said, oh, the men at Fish and Game aren't going to listen to some girl. And I'm not talking about they said it at a bar, they said it to their friends, they said it in the paper. And actually, you know, I had one guy, you heard Mary and Dana talk earlier about the programs that we do to reduce predators. One guy said, well, she looks like somebody that would jump in front of a truck to save a deer. Is she really going to be tough enough to remove predators? And so going back to the video, they actually thought that I was going to manage Fish and Wildlife like a girl, that I was going to run an agency like a girl. And so, you know, and this was in 2010. It wasn't in 1910. And so I think, you know, some of that has gotten a lot better since the time that Dee Dee worked for Fish and Game, and some of those attitudes prevail. But going back to the question that I was asked, I think one of the advantages to being a woman in this position is something that we heard referred to this morning, and that is empathy. Women are brought up, given the message that it's okay to have empathy, that it's okay to understand and mirror the feelings of others, even if you can't give them everything they want. And when you are in a position where you're dealing with contentious issues, emotional issues, issues that are deeply tied to the core of who people are as Alaskans and people's culture, that ability to have empathy for their feelings and not be afraid to show that empathy when you're dealing with these contentious issues is a real advantage in my field, and I think it's a real advantage in many professions. And unfortunately, our young men today are still given the message that they should not be empathetic, that to be too emotional is unmasculine. And they internalize that. You can see them internalizing it as they grow up. And then they get into the professional setting and they aren't able to show empathy in the same way. And I think that can be a handicap in the workplace. I think that's one way that women have an advantage.
Commissioner, thank you. Aisha, can you tell us, if we look here down at the next question, a story of when you overcame expectations that were bestowed on you?
My expectations are independence, working out, it took hard work to learn those things. Through the help, I had support through my family and friends.
Excellent. Thank you. And I know that all of our panelists have just done amazing things and quite different things, so I'm going to ask each of them to share a piece of advice they have for how they, you know, accomplished what they did and what others might take away as inspiration.
Okay, I'll start. You know, I was asked recently about support group of women on the trail, on the Iditarod Trail. Is there a support group of women? And, you know, I really thought about that. And the thing that I like about Iditarod, the very most, is that we are all independent competitors, and that we don't depend on, you know, our age groups our genders, our disabilities. The mountain is as high for every woman as it is for every man, and the storm and the wind blows just as hard. And it tests you at your own deepest level, and that's what I loved. And that's what I still love today. And the driver that I am today is not the driver I was when I was 24 or 34 or 44 or 54. But Iditarod required me to deeply strip down my thoughts and realize what my weaknesses were. If you're not deadly honest with yourself, and I think this works in every profession, if you're not deadly honest about your weaknesses, you can't work on them. If you don't know and if you won't admit what they are, you can't fix them or work to improve your strength in that area. But on the other hand, you have to be incredibly honest about your strengths. And when you identify those strengths, then you know when you can pull them out and use them. You know when you see a competitor in a particular situation, you have a strength to pass them by, leave them alone. As Jeff did when he fell asleep in, Elam, and Lance just left him sleep. Everybody, leave him be. You have a chance to do that, and you do it in everything. But the thing is, there's no shortcut. It's hard work. Susan Butcher and I said that one time. We were talking about a conference, and we said, gee whiz, the young competitors have all the advantages. We had to develop all the stuff that they learn in these symposiums. A lot of the nutrition and a lot of the science and a lot of the dog care and stuff, that was all things that we have learned and developed and honed. And yet we go to symposiums and we, just spoon feed it to the competitors. I mean, I'm competing against third generations. I've competed against their grandfather, their father, and now them, I mean, there's something to be said for longevity. But you have to work hard. And Susan and I said, you know what? We could tell them every secret in the book. But if they don't work hard, it won't matter. And most of them will just drink coffee. And so, I stopped worrying about giving away the secrets because the secret is hard work every day pursuing a passion. And when somebody is that passionate about what they do, they're going to outperform the person next to them that's doing it for a paycheck.
What great advice. One of my favorite moments of the conference so far today was when Fran Ulmer said, I was raised as my father's son. And I had a similar experience. I was raised as my father's son, and I don't know if it's because there were no boys in my family or if my father is just especially evolved and progressive when it comes to equality for women. But either way, I was raised as a commercial fisherman, and I was raised as a full member of the crew, as somebody that could run the boat as well as run the deck. And I think that what happened to me in that environment is every time we brought a new crewman on board, which was almost always a man, I was put in a position of having to prove myself over and over again, because the assumption was always, you're a girl, you can't pull your weight, you can't do the work, you cannot argue somebody out of that. All you can do is put your head down and get to work and give them irrefutable evidence that the stereotype is wrong, that it doesn't apply to you. And if enough women do that, if enough women just get to work and prove to people what women can do, people will have to recognize that the stereotype is flawed, that it cannot be true, because there is example after example after example in front of them of women who just got to work and got the job done. And that's such an important thing. And, I am raising an 11-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son. And my daughter is beautiful and smart and strong and so confident. But she is teetering on the brink of adolescence, and she is getting messages every day telling her that she isn't pretty enough, that she isn't cool enough, and that it's definitely not cool to be smarter than the boys. And we have to create a safe environment for our young people. We have to create a safe environment for our children at home and at school where they feel safe taking risks, where they feel safe taking on new things, and where they're exposed to all kinds of activities. Whether it's a girl's activity or a boy's activity, you have to expose them to everything. But that's really the advice that I would have. If you are in a position where you have influence over young people, see that power for what it is and use that opportunity to teach young girls that they can do anything, and to teach young boys that girls can do anything, and so can they. And you have to surround yourself with people who support you. I received a lot of support from my parents. Not everybody is in that situation. If you're not, find somebody else who does believe in you. Find somebody who will be a mentor and an advisor and believes in your strengths, because we all need that. We all need people that are supporting us and guiding us on this journey. Thanks.
Aisha, do you have any advice for our lunch crowd?
Yes. I want to teach you all what I live by. I live by our core values. And those words are open and honest communication, teamwork and collaboration, accountability and commitment. And through learning those words, I got support also through family and friends. And I think we all should go through core values.
Holly, you're up.
So I guess before I give my words of advice or tell a story or anything, it really hit me here sitting next to Dee Dee. That first question about stereotypes, and I was looking at it and being like, well, I mean, I know I've faced discrimination. I know stereotypes are out there, but I just want to take this opportunity to publicly thank Dee Dee and all of the older women that are in this room who have really paved the way for people like me, and then people like, all the girls here from West High, because you women have really paved the way for us. And, you had to do the basketball with the 3 dribbles, not 4. And that has been instrumental for people like myself. I'm 32. She's, 60, disclosing. And there is a real difference in experience here. That's progress. That's not to say that we don't have somewhere else to go, because we do. We have an obligation, and there are still hurdles. And I think that everyone will leave today with a couple take-homes, and I was kind of thinking about what mine were, or what mine are, and something that keeps coming into my head is that performance versus potential that I think was talked about yesterday. And the performance is kind of looking back at the past, what's on your resume, what you have done, your accomplishments, and your potential is the future, and, the untapped, the potential, what you can do, what you could do if no one told you that you were going to fail. And, that's something that really resonated with me, because I moved to Alaska 10 years ago, and it was going to be for a winter. And I came up here to actually be the high school ski coach at West High. So go Eagles. And I actually have one of my former skiers here sitting in the front row, Lindsay, which is always fun. But I came up here, and I never in my wildest dreams would could you have told me 10 years ago that I would be sitting up here and talking about this kind of stuff. when I moved up here, I self-identified as someone who loved skiing, but I raced in Junior Olympics for 6 or 7 years, and what were my results? My performance was an average 40th place. So I self-identified as mediocre. And, you know, I didn't even know that I was holding myself back at that point, but I self-identified as mediocre. And, you know, there's a lot of feminine energy in here, and, you know, I don't think there's been too much male bashing going on, but I have to give a little bit of credit to my husband because, you know, while I don't feel like I've had a bunch of hurdles, I was stuck on my performance. I was stuck on the fact that I identified myself as a mediocre athlete. Well, my husband saw the potential in me, and he helped push me forward. So, you know, he told me, you're better than you think. You're much better than 40th. I think that you can win. And I went out and I was still working as a full-time coach in high school and locally at APU. And because of his coaxing and because of his kind of making me aware of that potential and not really thinking back to my performance, I was able to put a reach goal out there, and that goal was to make the 2010 Olympic Games, and it was crazy, right? I had nothing in my resume, nothing in my past performance that indicated that I should have any business putting a goal like that out there. I made that goal with his help. I told everyone about it, which is why I actually loved when Janet had all the girls say what they wanted to do and be. I really think that vocalizing your goals are important because you never know what kind of support you're going to get. And I was able to make the 2010 Olympic team. And there was one day in January, right before the Olympics, and the front page of the newspaper said, "Coaches in the Games." And that was me. That was the 40th place person at Junior Olympics. And so I guess my take-home message or my advice, not only in yourself, but in the women, daughters, coworkers, and people that are surrounding you, really, really emphasize the potential, not the performance. And as women, we're great at giving credit to other people. We're not good at advocating for ourselves. And so, you know, in a perfect world, we would rewrite history, take away all those cultural barriers, and advocate for ourselves, be able to see our potential. We can do that. I have a lot of hope that we can do that. But in the meantime, find someone in your life and point out the potential for them. Take away their performance and have them put on the blinders and see the future and their potential. So that performance versus potential and looking into the future, whether it's for yourself or for other people, focus on the potential and, you know, what could I do if someone told me that, you know, you weren't going to fail. And there's this really, there's this cliche saying, I know you guys have heard it, and I can never remember which way it goes, but if you shoot for the moon, you might land amongst the stars. Or maybe it's the other way around, shoot for the stars and you might land on the moon. And that's what that potential is. So find that in yourself and the people around you.
The topic of this panel was redefining like a girl. And what I'd like all of you to take home is that in my house, in my office, if you say like a girl, that's the highest compliment that there is. I've been asked to talk about Girl Scouts for a few minutes. But before I do that, I would like everybody in the room who is, was, has been, wants to be a Girl Scout to stand up, please. And this is the impact that mentoring, or as Elvie said this morning, womentoring, can have. Thank you all. I know we've got board members out here. We have troop leaders here today. We have some current Girl Scouts who, here today. Holly, if you hear, is our public face for Girl Scouts here in Alaska. She does all our PSAs. So if you hear a voice on the radio asking you to be a volunteer for Girl Scouts, to be a troop leader, to be a mentor or a womentor, to come out to Women of Science and Technology Day and inspire girls. It's Holly asking you to do that.
And I have to interject, and Sue knows what I'm going to say, but I was asked to do the PSAs for Girl Scouts, and I said, well, of course, because when I was a Girl Scout, if I wanted to go to camp, my parents made me sell 1,000 boxes of Girl Scout cookies to earn my way. And so, I think that's where part of my work ethic came from. And I wasn't just outside of Safeway. She made me go downtown and hit the 5 o'clock rush hour, like people coming out of their offices. So, there's a little bit of that opportunist, and, I have to credit some of the work ethic and maybe some of my ability to suffer on the 867th box of Girl Scout cookies that I had to sell.
And my mom took me on base. We were military, and I stood right outside the cafeteria while the soldiers came to eat and sold boxes and boxes and boxes of cookies for the same reason.
And when people hear about Girl Scouts, they think about Girl Scout cookies. And Girl Scout, cookies are terrific, and they are a fundraiser, but more importantly than that, they are the largest girl financial literacy program in the world. And they teach girls how to set goals, they teach girls about money management skills, about strategy, they give them a sense of independence, that Holly can earn her own way to summer camp by selling Girl Scout cookies. Her mom was her troop leader, mind you. And the skills and the independence, our mission is to build girls of courage, confidence, and character who can make, and we always insert the word Alaska, and the world a better place. And we do it through programming, and the programming is all research-based, it's all age-appropriate. Cookie Sales is one of those programs. Here in Alaska, we are deeply committed to STEM programming, and STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. We are in the final process of finishing the creation of a STEM center for Alaska's girls out in Chugiak. We've put it in the middle of a beautiful 40-acre property. That'll be day camp in the summertime. There's lots of outdoor recreation and education opportunities. And we have a lodge there that is going to be a STEM center for all of Alaska's girls. We'll have programming from aviation, engineering, Lego robotics, all kinds of just tremendous things for girls. We know that girls need to be inspired, and need to be inspired, as you could see in the movie today, at certain ages. And if we don't help to fill that gap, and fill that gap with wonderful, inspirational programming, events, activities, role models, good things will happen when you do, and you leave to chance when you don't. So we are, kind of forging ahead and trying to provide that of after-school activity for girls, to provide adult role models, but we need your help to do that. Girl Scouts of Alaska has almost 6,000 girls. We are powered by 1,500 adult volunteers. Volunteers are troop leaders, they're Lego robotics coaches, they are speakers at events and activities for the girls, they run workshops at Women in Science and Technology Day, they do radio spots for us. And I would really like to ask everyone in this room to open your hearts, your wallets, your time, your skill to help girls. And a fabulous way to do that is with Girl Scouts. So thank you all for being here. Panel, you did a great job. Thank you.